Good morning, everyone. How we doing? Don't all talk at once. Any questions about anything so far? I know we have a few people that just joined us. This will be their first meeting. So we'd like to have everybody's camera on. So if you're just joining us, please turn your camera on. Need to see all those beautiful smiling faces. So does anybody have any questions? Giovanna, you have to leave class early. That's fine. Will it affect you? I don't know if you can live without listening to the last 15 minutes of me talking. I guess you'll live. Unable to turn your camera on today. Why is that? You forgot to do your hair? Okay. All right, got a few minutes. So we have almost 100 students in this class. So we'll wait for a few more to get here before we start. Plus we still got a few minutes. All right. Questions about anything so far? Anything on the syllabus? Anything about your groups, group projects? You really don't need to worry about yet, just forming your groups. The discussion is due midnight, 11:59. So all your discussions will be due at midnight on Friday. That'll give you almost a full week to do them. but don't wait until the last minute. Because I know most of you are probably not doing homework at midnight on a Friday night, are you? All right, I'll give you a few more moments. Have a few people trickling in. Okay, if you haven't turned on your camera, please turn it on as I scroll through and look at everybody. Ray, you look like you're in a dungeon. There's no lights. That's right, I can see your face. You're good. All right. All right, shall we get started? So how's everybody doing today? Bright and early, 9 o'clock. Everybody's ready? Yeah. No. Okay. I have it. Yes, we know your camera doesn't work. I will excuse you this time. Oh, I have some information for you guys in case your camera is, or you need laptops. The school is providing them. So I'll get to that in a few minutes. Discussion session is going to be due Friday night, not before class, so you can do that afterwards. But don't wait until the end of the week to do it at the last minute. You guys already know that, right? Okay. So I'm going to start you off with a short video. It's all about chapter 2, Nokia. They talked about Nokia in your book. So we're going to start off with that. All right. All right, so we're having some technical difficulties, mostly just me. All right. All right, so everybody can see the board, correct? Can see my slideshow. So what I was trying to show you on Nokia, I'll put the link up into the iLearn. But basically what we're trying to show you is how Nokia went from having 40% of the market share down to basically going out of business. Okay. All right. Why is this not working now? No, I don't want to do that.
YouTube ads beat Facebook ads every time. Let's face it, Facebook ad costs are going through the roof, and even when you have a great ad, they're almost impossible to scale. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use YouTube ads to generate consistent leads and sales. I'm out.
I apologize. All right. I apologize for that. All right, shall we try this again? I didn't have my coffee this morning. All right. All right. So what I tried to show you was a little clip from Nokia, where basically from 1994 to 2018, how they lost 40% of the market share. So many of these companies that you think are great don't innovate. They don't keep up with what's going on. They don't do their competitive advantage and find out basically they lose their market share. So from reading in your book, the little first part of it, profits plunged by 68%. They lost almost 10% of their market share within a year, and the stocks fall by 86%. So what happened with this? You guys can chime in now and see what's going on. So why did Nokia lose their market share?
Nokia was focused on having good hardware for their phones, but phones were evolving to have software and they couldn't keep up, like with Google's phones and Apple's phones.
Absolutely. So what they did is they didn't invest in the 3G that was coming out. They didn't invest in the software to run 3G. But yeah, they concentrated mostly on just what their hardware is doing. They weren't innovative, correct? Okay. So other companies, what are some other companies that this has happened to that haven't innovated, that haven't kept up on this?
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster, they're still open in Bend, Oregon. They have the last one is there. What else? Kodak. BlackBerry, I think, is still around.
Barely.
Barely, I know, huh? Okay, so somebody said Kodak. So, you know, interesting enough, Kodak made one of the first digital cameras, and they decided that that wasn't the way to go, which they were probably right because everybody has a camera in their phone now. But they made one of the best digital cameras ever. What about Polaroid? Does anybody remember this? You guys are kind of young, but it's coming back.
Yeah, just watch a movie.
Okay, Borders. Amazon put them out of business back in the early days. Toys R Us. You guys probably all remember Toys R Us. And a little bit a lot of people didn't know that GM actually went out of business and was reopened in a whole new corporation. At one time, General Motors, because they could spread the cost out, so they were so big and they can spread the costs out, that they would actually be able to sell cars cheaper than anybody else.
Yeah, didn't Chrysler have to file bankruptcy as well?
Chrysler did file bankruptcy. I think they're owned by Tatra Motors now, I think, aren't they? They're owned by a company outside of the United States. So Ford is the last standing American company that's been here forever. But yeah, at one time, General Motors was the largest company. They could actually, spread their costs out so they could sell a Cadillac cheaper than an economy car if they wanted to. And they could have put everybody out of business. They basically could have sold their cars so cheap that they would have put everybody else out of business. But fortunately, they didn't. Okay.
Wouldn't Tesla be considered a American company?
I believe so. They're made here, right?
Ye-
Even Toyota and many of the other foreign companies make cars here now. Toyota, Nissan, and they call themselves like Toyota. Toyota calls themselves Toyota USA. So they are, in all intents and purposes, an American company. They're just a division of a foreign company that basically does everything here in America now. So their corporate headquarters is still in Japan, but they also have a headquarters here in the United States. So they pay all the taxes, do everything the American corporation does. Questions about that? Okay. A little bit of review on the what is strategy, a plan to achieve competitive advantage. As we saw, a lot of those companies, they didn't continually invest in things that would make them a competitive company. They didn't know their markets. For example, the camera, they didn't know that film was not going to be used 10, 20 years down the line. They didn't diversify. All they did was pour all their money into the camera. They did make some printers for a while. Firm's value, resources and capabilities. So you always have to expand. You always have to grow to have sustained compatible advantage. All right. So chapter 2 is all about the external environment. We're going to talk about Porter's 5 forces, complementary goods, peanut butter and jelly. They go well together. All right. Attractiveness of U.S. industries. So if you are a software company, besides Bill Gates, you're making about average. Soft drinks is on the higher end of the scale. It's much easier to make a soft drink. There's low barriers to entry. The profit margin is pretty good, kind of like bottling water. Okay, and then auto manufacturing is down on the low end. So the harder it is to get into the industry, it seems to be the return on equity seems to be lower. If you're in accounting, you're in the top net profit margin. Privately held companies, I think that's a little skewed. I think that's a little bit on the low side because most companies make probably about a 15% profit margin. And then office of dentists, that's why you see there's so many dentists out there. Profit margin is relatively good. Okay, so we're talking about Porter's 5 forces. This chapter, threat of new entries. So time and cost of entry, special knowledge, economies of scale. We talked about General Motors, how the economies of scale, they were so big that they could actually sell cheaper than anybody else. Cost advantages, technology protection, barriers to entry. Many times the barriers to entry will not only be finance, money, but also government. So a lot of times you can't just go to a different country and open up a business. The government will prohibit that and certain other legislation. Okay, competitive rivalry, number of competitors, quality differences, other differences, switching costs, we'll talk about that a little bit later, and customer loyalty. Okay, buying power, number of customers, size of each order, price sensitivity, cost of changing over, threat of substitutes. We'll speak a little bit more about that. Substitute performance, cost of a change. In many corporations, the cost to change over to a different CRM system is ridiculous. It's literally millions of dollars. So most of the time, you're stuck with a bad CRM system and you can't change because you invested so much money into it. And a lot of proprietary software, proprietary systems are that way in the industry, in the real working world. Okay, supplier power, number of suppliers, size of suppliers, uniqueness of service, your ability to substitute, and cost and change. All right. Any questions about that so far? So anything about chapter 1? Anything about chapter 2, Porter's 5 forces? Good? Okay. So rivalry is a competition amongst firms within an industry. Typically, this involves firms putting pressure on each other, limiting each other's profit potential by attempting to steal profits and or market share. This is most evident in the cell phone world right now. It is very competitive. It's very hard to make a lot of money. People are not very loyal. They try and lock you into a couple of year contract. But what happens is many of these like Metro, Cricket, Boost, they know their customer base don't have a lot of money. They know that they're going to switch as soon as they can find a cheaper substitute. Okay. Yes, T-Mobile and Sprint are together now. Yes, this is an old slide. It's like 6 months old. See what happens? I miss Mervin's too. I used to buy my Levi's there. All right. Let's go on. All right. So this is kind of the sheet from your book, evaluating the intensity of rivalry. You're going to use this when you start doing your final project. All right. I would say you should use this. I'm not going to make you use this, but you should use this. And number of relative size of competitors. So when you go pick your product in your industry, in the ceramics industry, you're going to find out who else is doing the same thing you're doing, and then you're going to evaluate them. You don't want to get into a market that's highly competitive. The profit margin is very low, and you don't want to get into something where the barriers are very high, very expensive. Okay, so this sheet is in your book and also for the slides here. Okay, so we're going to talk about threat of new entrants. Tesla, we spoke about Tesla. Somebody mentioned Tesla a little bit earlier. Tesla has basically been the Uber of the car industry. While they're shaking things up, they're still not a mainstream car yet. They still don't have charging stations everywhere, but they're still working on that. So the threat of new entrants, time and cost of entry. Obviously, if you have a few $1 billion laying around, you can start your own airline company. If you don't have a few $1 billion, it might be a little bit hard. Specialist knowledge. So being in the airline industry, the more you know, the better it is, the cheaper you can do things. Economies of scale. For example, Southwest Airlines, which is one of your case studies later, they all use 737 airplanes, which is not a good thing because of the MAX 737 because of the problems they have. But on the other hand, it's a very good thing on the older models because all of the parts are the same, all of the training's the same, everything's the same, so that's a cost advantage. Technology protection and barriers to entry. So for example, starting your own airline company, if you don't have $1 billion, you're not going to start your own airline company, or several million anyway.
Yeah, there's a joke that says, how do you become a millionaire? Start as a billionaire and buy an airline.
They used to say the same thing about building the railroads to the west. So the fastest way to lose your money is invest in an airline. But you know which is kind of strange, funny, because the people who loan money to the airlines, they really don't mind that much if the airline goes out of a business, because they have these millions of dollars worth of equipment that they can actually sell for just as much, if not more. So the people who are giving money to these airlines don't really care because they know, especially now that the MAX 737 is grounded, they know they can sell these other airplanes to other airlines to use. Okay. All right. So barriers to entry. So scale of economies, we just talked about that with the aerospace industry and the airlines. Capital requirements, obviously, if you don't have $1 billion laying around, you can't become a millionaire with an airline. Scope of economies, like we talked about General Motors and some of like the retailing with Walmart. Switching costs, doing learning. So if like Toyota has a very very specific way that they do a lot of their internal things, and they can't, and GM's try to imitate it, a lot of other car manufacturers have tried to imitate it, and they can only come up with about 10 to 20% of what they do. So they're very efficient at that and very good. So you can't just turn around and switch the way you do things. Access to scarce resources, for example, diamonds. Even though they're not a scarce resource, De Beers keeps a tight rein on them and doesn't allow other people. They basically, they're like the Microsoft. They go and buy you up and tell you can't sell your diamonds. Okay, the Coke distribution. Coke sells distributions to private people who then manufacture Coke, and that's another way they keep them the control of that. Okay, learning curve. Honda Motors is a perfect example of it takes several decades to perfect a motor, and Honda has done that very, very well. Not only in their motorcycles and their cars, but in their boat engines. Okay, product complexity, supercomputers, microprocessors, and regulations. For example, barriers to entry like tariffs. The United States putting tariffs on everybody now. The Scottish were complaining that we shouldn't be taxing their Scotch. Okay. Supplier power, the narrow sell options of suppliers through market consolidations, mergers, and alliance. Basically, you buy up the competition. What a lot of these companies are doing. Apple buys up the competition. A lot of people don't know that Siri was actually a separate company that Apple bought. So everybody knows Siri is synonymous with the Apple. Develop alternative sources of supply. Ally with suppliers. Walmart can put products over 10,000, almost 11,000 store shelves by now. So if I come to your company and say, hey, I can put your product on 11,000 different stores throughout the world, what do you think about that? And everybody'd go, that's great. We probably can't manufacture them fast enough, but we'll do it anyway. And by the way, I'm Walmart, so you're going to do it for this price. And that's what they do. Diversify product offerings to diminish dependence of your business of any particular supplier. All right. All right, buying power. Differentiate your offering so that uniquely respond to only certain buying needs. Art is a perfect example of this. The chair that you see on the right is, something that you can't go to IKEA and buy, or Staples or Office Depot. Buyers have less power when your product offers something that is unique. Switching costs, like I spoke about the CRMs, customer relations management software. For those of you who don't know what CRM stands for. Okay, which is very big. That's Salesforce. You guys heard of Salesforce. Buyer power. Narrow the options of the buyer through marketing consolidation or exclusive alliances. What you've seen in the computer industry, HP buying Samsung. HP bought out Compaq back in the day. Compaq was very big in education. They competed with Apple. So HP bought them out. They wanted to take a big old bite out of Apple's profit margin, which they did a little bit, but not, everybody's still in the educational industry, still likes Apple. Buyers have less power when there are fewer options. So for example, if you want to fly on an airline from here to, let's say, Bend, Oregon to go rent a movie at Blockbuster, you have very few airlines that'll actually fly into Bend. You'll either have to fly into Portland and take a plane, or you'll have to do a shuttle from Portland. There are a few direct flights, but it really severely limits what you can do. Pharmaceuticals, banks, and hotels, they all are starting to consolidate. They're all starting to have giving you less of a choice. Hilton and Marriott own most of the hotels out there. They're under 3 or 4 different names each. Okay. Threat of substitutes. If we're actually in a live class, I do this. I do a taste test. I have the Pepsi, the Coca-Cola, and the RC Cola, and I have a group of 10 students come up and do a blind taste test, and 9 out of 10 of them will pick RC Cola as the best tasting soda, and nobody knows that. I don't know why, but they always do, and it works every single time. Okay, so create switching costs for buyers. For example, Coca-Cola and Pepsi will give coupons out every other week. 1 week it'll be Pepsi, 1 week it'll be Coca-Cola, and the prices will go back and forth, and the sales will go back and forth. So whatever's on sale, people will buy. So the switching costs, the threat of substitutes is very big here. Buyers have less power when there are greater costs to switch due to learning, specialized investment, loyalty programs, network effects, and coupons. We spoke about that with CRM systems. It'll cost you millions of dollars to switch the CRM system. It'll cost you nothing it'll actually save money if you use a coupon to buy Pepsi instead of Coke that week. All right. So substitute goods. So Burger King and McDonald's is a substitute good example. As the price of McDonald's goes up, so does the demand for Burger King, and vice versa. So I don't know if you've heard of the Big Mac economies of scale, where you base the economy on the cost of a Big Mac. We'll go over that a little bit later. All right, complementary goods. Ladies, you know you can't buy a handbag without buying brand new shoes, right? And when you buy s'mores, you always, the chocolate bar, you know you're going to have to buy more marshmallows and more graham crackers, and hot dogs and the buns. Those are all complementary goods, examples of a complementary good. All right, so we're going to talk more about airlines. Okay, so for example, the threat of entry, entrants have cost advantages. Let me see the chat. It's a 3-hour drive from Portland to Bend. I've done it many times. Coffee and creamer. Yes, coffee and creamer is exactly a good example. And if there's snow on the pass, you're probably going to take you about 4 or 5 hours to drive from Portland to Bend. Okay. So if you have any other questions, just go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can talk to me or just speak up. Okay, threat of entry, have cost advantages, moderate capital requirements, little product differentiation, deregulation of government barriers. The government, for example, through the 70s and 80s and some of the 90s, had a regulation on who could own an airline, how they fly into the United States, what routes they do, and all that other stuff. Well, they deregulated all of that, and that's why you saw a influx of Southwest Airlines, Alaska, some of these smaller airlines popped up, and then some of these companies like United branched off to do some of these smaller airlines. So the threat of entry suddenly became, there was no threat because the government lifted the barriers. Of course, so you still had to have $1 million or so to buy a plane and fly it in and out, or lease a plane. Okay. Supplier power, strong labor unions, concentrated aircraft makers. So I think we're down to 2 aircraft makers now that make pretty much all the airplanes that fly. And the unions are still very, very strong in the industry. So that is a supplier power thing that limits their capabilities. Threat of substitutes, so autos or train rides for something short. But if you're flying overseas, you'd have to take a ship, a cruise ship. So the threat of substitutes is really not that big of a deal when it comes to if you're going to go from LA to New York and you want to do it quickly, you're not going to drive or take a train. Okay, buyer power. Buyer is extremely price sensitive. You want to pay the cheapest price for your airline ticket, so it's very, very competitive. So that means the buyer has the advantage, and then good access to information, so you can go online and do that. So their industry rivalry is very, very high. There's many different companies. They're starting to dwindle down a little bit with the way the economy is now, and what the COVID has done to the airline travel. Little differentiation. Flying one airline is pretty much the same as flying the other. There are some small differences. For example, Southwest Airline, you line up, you go in line, as opposed to having a seat already assigned, as other airlines do. So variable costs and clinical demand. All right, any questions? No, we're good. All right, we're going to go back to our Cobra beer example that we talked about on Monday. A little bit of Porter's Five Forces. So this is where you guys can participate a little bit. So what would be new entrants? So what are some things that you think about on new entrants when you get into the beer market? You guys can talk up. Creating new breweries. Okay. So what would be, Carlos, what would be some things that you need to do on creating new breweries?
Either rent a space or build one from the ground up, rent all the equipment or buy the equipment yourself, and then all of the resources you need to start brewing.
Absolutely. So there would be some kind of probably a cost to that. So not everybody will have that much money to start a, right?
Could be like research and development costs behind coming up with like new brews and flavors for the beer.
Absolutely. Okay. And then here, young persons are always ready to try some new brands, right? You guys are always ready to try something new. Is that still accurate? Strong marketing. New markets then explored by the Cobra Beer? Absolutely. So you have new markets to go into. What else you got for me? Errol, you look bored out of your mind. What do you got?
I guess, I mean, finding like a way to like bottle or like shit.
Okay, that's also a good one. Hiring and training staff. Yeah, that's always going to be a cost. Okay. So you can increase your marketing efforts, especially in new markets, USA, Australia, Africa. So those are a lot of the emerging markets. And research, coming up with new methods of brewing. I don't know if you're familiar with the Reinheitsgebot law in Germany, that you can only have 4 ingredients in your beer. Some countries regulate their food, unlike the United States, where we have such high diabetes. Ireland just declared Subway bread not bread. I don't know if you guys heard about that on the news or not, but they tried to get a tax break on it, and Ireland wouldn't let them. Okay. So what are some substitutes of beer? Carlos, you look like you're just busting out ready to say something.
I was just typing in the chat, like the Subway bread, that it has too much beer, too much sugar.
Yeah, basically they're serving donuts. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, but substitute to beer, basically any other type of alcohol.
Yeah, spirits. What's the popular thing right now is what, those spritzers?
Seltzers.
The White Claws, the Bud Light seltzers and stuff.
Trulies.
So substitutes from wine and spirits. Spirits are hard alcohol, by the way, in case you don't know that. So yeah, so like a lot of the flavored beers, like that pear ciders, a lot of these other flavored beers are coming up, and other types of drinks. Vodka, tequila, those are all spirits. Non-alcoholic beer. I don't know. Is there another drink that complements Indian food? I think they do that guava drink. That's really good. It's a fruit drink.
A lot of Indians like to drink tea with their food as well.
Yeah, tea. They got that from the British. Wine products. Okay, made to accompany Indian food. Absolutely. You guys have been looking at my PowerPoint slides. All right. So bargaining power of customers. So what do we got there? So college students are mostly always broke anyway. So usually price is always a factor for them, right? I know it was when I was in college. I drank horrible beer when I was in college. And we got better tea too. That's all. The British stole it from you. Okay. That's right. They also stole you know, that's funny because in England their national dish is an Indian dish, which is funny. They're you know, so yeah, the British stole a lot of things, Egyptian relics, everything from every country that they conquered. All right. What didn't they steal? The Queen's jewels. No, I think they probably stole some of those too. All right. High price premium beers may not get as much revenue from the beer sales because of the way the economy is right now. So the bargaining power of customers. What else we got? Manufacturer is always on the watch about losing market position. Since it is a very competitive market, if you watch sports or the Super Bowl, you know, Bud always does the sponsorship, and they always, you know, you always find a few other commercials, but mostly it's always Bud doing on the Super Bowl. What do you got in the chat? Tecate is also popular. Okay. So different marketing. So you always see these companies doing different marketing, especially like in the wine industry. There's always, you know, they're always trying to get you to buy their wines, and they always do different things for marketing. All right. So bargaining power of suppliers. Okay. So has anybody ever drank Penny beer? Penny the which is it's very difficult to get the hot beer.
First off, a car isn't really relevant in New York City, but we like this.
All right. All right. Anything else? The companies develop a long-term relationship with many of the suppliers in many of the different industries, especially in this beer. They did a 10-year, was it 5-year contract with most of their suppliers. Toyota actually invest in their suppliers. They buy partnerships with their suppliers to guarantee that they get all the stuff that they need. All right. Is that a little bit better on the right side? I actually have your screen open. All right. Most suppliers of Cobra Bear have a 4-year contract, which ensures that the company, and it's telling me that my internet connection is unstable and then I might lose you, but if don't go away, I'll come back. Okay, competition. The beer industry is mature industry, and it has many players, which translates to stiff competition. There's many industries out there. For example, the industry that I'm in, selling office equipment, copiers and whatnot, not only a dying industry, but it's a very mature industry. You're seeing a lot of companies buy each other up. Most recently, HP bought up Samsung. Xerox bought different companies. They're always buying companies up, trying to consolidate. And what you can do when you consolidate is you can get a better price. All right. Top 5 brewers control 80% of the market. That is, many of the mature industries are that way. You'll have a few companies that control everything. For example, Xerox and HP control everything in my industry pretty much. So Molson Coors, Heineken control most of the industry in the beer industry. Most have a popular product brand that can keep its market share in a saturated market. Pharmaceuticals is a very good example of this. Everybody's heard of Viagra, which actually started out as a medication for diabetes to help the blood flow, but nobody even knows what other products they sell. All they know is they sell, was it Pfizer, I think it is. All they sell is Viagra. Okay. And now that it's become, after it's worn off, so they can now make generic versions of it. Okay. Molson Coors collaborated with Cobra Beer, has increased the market share of Cobra Beer. So they consolidated. The big companies are buying up all the little companies. Okay. So questions about this so far? Karen, you're shaking your head no, you got everything? See, I told you I'm watching you. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a good one. Walmart versus Target. You guys ready for this? I'm actually going to do a poll and see if you guys are awake. All right, Walmart prefers the low cost, Target more toward profit margin and youthful image. Okay. So new arrivals and exclusive brands, it's true they're new. Here's what's on our radar for today. Ooh, we got the Beats. They got the iPhone. And then you can all get it at Walmart now. Okay, so they're trying to get in the all the young people. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do this. We're going to do a poll, so I'll wake you guys up. All right. So out of these advertisements, are these Walmart or Target advertisements?
There's a gray box.
You got the gray box?
Yeah.
We got about a 50-50. All right, so ending poll. So 53% think it's Target, 47% think it's Walmart. And the winner is, these are all Walmart ads. Walmart's trying to target the younger generation. All those are Walmart ads. All right. So what Walmart is trying to do, by the way, Capital One, I know, is a very expensive credit card to have. It's almost 30% interest, but a lot of times they target college students, so be aware. If your credit's good, get a different credit card. Okay. So Walmart is trying to target the younger generation with technology, mobile apps, all this other good stuff they're trying to get online. All right, so this is due this Friday, right? October 10th? October 9th, I'm sorry. I messed that up. Don't pay attention to this slide. All right, so Walmart mini case questions. You guys are almost all done with that. The distribution relationship information technology. Walmart has spent millions of dollars on the information technology to move their product all around the country. So logistics and how they distribution centers. Okay, HR, marketing, merchandising, store cost, location versus population. And the number one reason why Walmart is the most successful is, let's hear it. Everybody type it into the chat. Type it in. Low price. All right. So Walmart versus Amazon. So we got clicks to bricks and bricks to clicks. So Amazon is trying to get bricks and Walmart is trying to get clicks. So that's where they're coming at it from two different sides and they're trying to meet in the middle. Even though the combination of Walmart, Amazon, and every other retail still does not match what Amazon does. Okay. So remember the SWOT analysis when you're doing evaluation of companies. I just wanted to stress that it is a good starting point whenever we're doing the SWOT analysis. Juan, what's so exciting on your phone? Here's another addition to the SWOT analysis. Yes, I'm watching. This is in your slides. I want you to go over it. When you are doing your analysis of different companies, when you're doing your mini case studies, I want you to do a SWOT analysis. Okay. Any questions for me today about anything? The meaning of life. I know it. Don't ask so.
So for the mini case, you want us to write about the SWOT analysis in the mini case?
In the mini case, I'm saying that the SWOT is a good analysis that you should always think about when you're evaluating everything. So
Okay.
the opportunities and the threats. So internal and external of almost any company that you're going to do a mini case with. So always keep that in the back of your mind. If it's relevant to what you're doing, yes, absolutely add it into your mini case or whatever you're doing. So these are all your answers to your Walmart stuff. All right, so Friday, October 9th, you have your discussions, questions all done and posted. Walmart mini case due, use the whole 2 pages. Yes, I will take that into consideration when I grade it. Groups due at the end of week 2, which is Friday, October 16th. All right, anything else? Okay, I'm going to stick around for a little bit. If you want to talk to me for anything, I'll be here for 10, 15 minutes. And then my office hours, I'm only going to stick around for about half an hour because I have to drive to LA. So thank you, everyone. And we are now live on YouTube, and I'll fix that problem with the